From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision Bill Fisher. There's soon to be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher, our Captain Marvel, head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuck, and our Batman, master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission? To fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes and Training Team.
Captain's Log Supplemental.
Miss Vicki.
Yes, sir.
You know what?
What?
I've been thinking about this Sentinel system.
Yeah. Tell me about the Sentinel system.
So what I was thinking was we have the one car that's got the aim dash that's slowing us down. Because installing the aim dash is actually, it probably is easy, but it's quite hard the first time. And we haven't figured that out yet. The Sentinel system is really easy to set up. So what I was thinking was, why don't we put it in the Lemons car? And we'll worry about the aim data information separately. And we'll kind of break it down into a project. Because then we'd have the motorsports video system that we really, really want, and we'd be able to stream it. We just won't have the data inside, but we have the data outside, so we can combine them later. But I think that's a really good solution.
So what does this Sentinel system do?
Well, if it had the aim data, it would have all the data on the screen, and you could see all their telemetry and everything live. But we'd be able to not only record it for viewing after the race, but we could actually watch our car during the race.
Ooh, like on the monitor and everything?
On a monitor, if you were at home and I was at a track, or if you were at the track and I was at home, depends on who gets the short straw, but we'd be able to watch each other.
It's something I've always wanted to do.
And you know what? If you're driving, you know what you can do on the Sentinel system?
What's that?
You can
Dominating
communicate to me with your hands, and I can't do a thing about it.
Even better.
So, if you need to give a wave or a Jersey wave, whatever you need, we could save it and see it on the screen. And then you can have up to 3 different cameras, and it'll have picture in picture. You'll have the basic main shot out the front window, and then 2 cameras where you put them wherever you want. One could be on the driver, or one could be on the rear view. It's kind of cool.
Then we can upload it onto YouTube.
We could bore millions of people on YouTube.
I love it.
All right. Very well. You know what the only downside I see about this?
But
Your mom and my mom are going to be panic stricken the entire weekend watching this thing to see if everything's going well.
this is true.
We probably shouldn't tell them.
I like the idea of having a Sentinel.
Mm-hmm. Well, luckily we have maybe 2. Depends on how things go. We're going to try. All right. That sounds like a plan. That's the project. We got to get that ready for the next race.
Sounds great.
All right. Very well. Thank you, ma'am. Miss Vicki.
Yes.
I've got a question for you.
Sure.
Have you ever done what I know you do all the time and stalk other cars at the racetrack when we go out?
I do. I absolutely do. I like to tour and see what people do with their paddock and their organization. I actually take a peek inside their trailers, and starting to take a peek inside their cars now, because I'm starting to understand what setups are.
I got one that I could so relate to what you're saying. I'm always snooping on other people's cars. And when I grew up as a kid and my dad and his buddies were racing at the dirt track, I would always make him take me around the pits, and I would look at every car, everyone that had a push button ignition. I was like, that's a real race car. But if I caught it like a street stock, still had a key in the column, I'm like, that's not a real race car yet.
Yeah, right.
so I'm right there with you.
I'm at that phase right now where I used to look at cars just because, hey, that's a cool looking car. But now I'm looking at like, how is that thing set up, and how can I improve our setup? Mm-hmm. So I have questions.
You have questions? So, if only we had a Dominating with Dawson segment where we could ask with guest judge Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yay. Jeremy Hall is with us. Yay.
That's right. So some race cars can be as simple in some of the series that we go. Some race cars can be as simple as a caged car with everything stock, all the buttons, all the switches, everything in there. Whereas other ones look like they took 747s and took all the buttons, switches, gauges, knobs, and everything and put them all in the car. And and there's other cars that are somewhere in between. So Miss Vicki wanted to go over this topic to say, what do you guys think would be the optimal solution, and what types of switches and gauges and setups would you like to see in a car if you were doing an arrive and drive, or even if you were going to build a car from scratch? What would you guys be aiming at?
Yes, and the other thing too is it doesn't have to be an overly complicated setup, but I'm curious about seeing some of the setups that you have seen and worked with.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So,
In my experience, I've gone from everything with like running with race bar where they don't even have a gauge. The gauge is the overflow tube in the middle they route it to the middle of the windshield. If you see fluid start coming out, then you're overheating. That's the only gauge in the car. Like
they have lots of wires. Lots of wires.
So many wires. They keep all the glass in the cars and all the wires. I think they add wires because they have to add wires for all the speakers. Anyway, but I've gone from that to racing cars that have relatively nice fabricated switch panels that people have made. In our old E30 race car, we had one of those switch panels, and then we had a switch. But we didn't have the fanciest one. It was one we'd made out of plastic and punched holes in it, and we screwed in switches and lights and stuff like that. And we had indicators for fuel level, and we had a switch for the lights, a switch for our supplemental fan that we ran. I'm trying to think what else. I think we had our ignition on there, so we had the switch to flip up for the ignition and the button to push were all part of that panel.
Mm-hmm.
If you still have a location for a gauge cluster, you might want to put actual gauges there. I'm not
what
sure
is
you
a
want to
gauge
put
cluster? What do you mean a gauge cluster? Just all the gauges in one spot?
Yeah, that part of the car is called a gauge cluster because it's like a module where all the gauges are kind of housed. So if you still have that space available, you might want to put, even if you're going to use aftermarket gauges, I think you still want to have it in that location because that's where your eyes are looking. So I wouldn't want to put you can put some gauges in one of those switch panels, but probably not ones that you need to be checking all the time, like your tach, or you only see your water temperature.
Mm-hmm.
So that's there might be your car might require other switches like a flugelhorn swoggle or something, some weird Porsche junk.
We just go Dr. Seuss racing.
Yeah, that's right. that was me making a clean version of something else I could have said. But yeah, I mean, that's in my experience, it could be everything from nothing to pretty elaborate switch panels. I've seen a lot of teams have some switch panel they bought aftermarket and installed. There's got a bunch of switches that some of them are unoccupied. They don't need as many as they got, but it fit their car and it was a nice solution for them. I've also seen teams do solutions that struck me as a little bit dangerous. Where they'll take a piece of metal, they'll just fab a piece of metal and not take care to round off the corners. It just seems like I've seen switch panels look like something you could cut yourself on. So something to think about is, what can my flailing limbs reach and touch in this car, and will it cut or kill me? So I don't know. That's just a caveat. If you make a switch panel out of a sign, your road sign you stole, just make sure it's not going to kill you.
That's a good plan.
One of the things that I saw that was really interesting, it dawned on me that was very clever when I was walking around, never noticed it before, is how they had the switch panel turned and angled to face the driver,
right.
Which I'm like, that's ingenious.
Well, I mean, when you're strapped in that car, you can't move. You can't reach. You can't. So if you have that thing angled, it allows you to be able to reach to all those buttons that you need to reach to a lot easier. On my end, I like simplicity. Leave as much factory stuff as you can. The BMW that I'm building right now is going to have the factory gauge cluster in it. So I'll have my fuel gauge in there, tachometer, I'll have my temperature gauge in there. But I mean, if you're going to start adding things, really oil pressure is a big one. And coolant temp. I mean, those are really your two main indicators that you really truly need while driving on a racetrack, in my opinion. Because if those two things start to go crazy, you need to know that those two things are going crazy. As far as crazy amount of switches, I mean, like I said, the simpler the better. You've got a novice guy getting in there, he sees 30 switches and starts playing with switches and buttons because he doesn't know what's going on. It could end a disaster. So if you don't have your factory wiper switch, obviously you really want wipers in endurance racing. So you're definitely going to need a wiper switch in there. You're obviously your power on, your kill switch, your start button. And if there's an accessory panel that you're going to run GoPros and things like that, and you need power in there, an accessory switch, instead of having all that stuff powered on all the time, that an accessory switch is a good thing in my opinion. But try to keep it clean. Try to keep it as clean as possible and as simple as possible, and only have those things that you really truly need. And obviously when you're building one, leave that little extra room for if you decide later on that you need to add something. Now you have that room to add something, as opposed to trying to rebuild the entire thing.
Right. So the one that I'm building right now, I did manage to turn it. We have a good portion of the original dashboard in the car still. So I built a control panel to match and twist out from that. Now, what I thought about doing, which now I understand what that one push button is, because we still have a key on our car that I'm going to have to, not this race coming up, but then the other one is to rewire it and move it to the button, which would be great. Fuel switch, cool suit switch. But I also don't have a place to put my fuel gauge, but it seems like I have an aftermarket fuel gauge that has a button to it. Not sure what that does. I imagine it's an on-demand button.
That might be something we'll have to look at on Saturday.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so.
Yes, we will. Because it makes no
yeah.
sense. Why would a
It
fuel
makes no
gauge have
sense
to
to
be
me,
push
which is
button?
why it's not installed yet.
Well, maybe it's for priming. Maybe it's for priming the pump.
Maybe. I don't know.
Who knows?
But I thought about also on the upper
Ben,
level.
look. What are you thinking?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. It came with the
I don't think
car.
that thing's going to choke or anything on it.
Well, we
I don't
took
know.
Well,
the,
I mean, maybe it's a pump for a carbureted car. You never know.
I don't know. It was on the far. It was actually when we got the car. It was on the passenger side. So you couldn't even read
It's
it.
weirder
but it was
and
over
weirder.
there.
yeah,
So
we're still trying to
I
figure
know.
out that one.
we're
It's
still trying to
unique.
figure out some things on the car. But I thought about just at the very top of our control panel, just putting all of our idiot lights on it.
Yeah. Idiot
So
lights
that
are
way-
really good, especially for like with you guys, where you have a lot of new people coming in and driving the cars that don't have a whole lot of experience in
Mhm.
wheel-to-wheel racing. Idiot lights are the way to go, in my opinion.
Right.
If,
And they're
if that
opposed
light
to a
comes on,
gauge lights.
stop.
Sorry. The proper name is gauge lights when things
Right.
go wrong.
Yes,
And just
that's
keep
true.
them in a clear spot when they kind of go off.
Mhm.
I think that is important to have. And of course I got all the main gauges that are around the dash. So, but
Mhm.
but like I said, I looked into some, and our fan, it goes through the ECU. So we don't have to really about a fan switch, because that was always a worry for me. It's like, you don't know your car is running hot until there's indicators, I guess, or if somebody's not really paying attention, all of a sudden you got to turn the fan on, they're not going to turn the fan on. So,
Yes.
but, the auxiliary switch or accessory switch, that's a very good one, because we have a new setup going in. What about some other things that might be good to have on the interior of your car?
Ejector seat.
Ejector seat.
That's when I'm instructing Vicki, and she
Yeah.
instead of telling me to shut up, she just hits the eject button. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I
Yep.
can see that happening.
That's the on and off switch for the mic.
So earlier,
Oh, did anybody say fire pole yet?
Oh yes, we have the fire pulls.
Sometimes it might
we
be, if you got a really sturdy panel, you might want to put the fire pole right there. So if it's very reachable with your hand, it might be something to consider putting there. You can also route, if it's really advantageous and it works out, you can route nozzles from your fire system potentially through that thing.
Yeah, but we
It
thought,
depends on where it is.
we thought it would be a lot better to put our fire pulls towards the exterior of the
Yeah,
of
instead of
the-
having to reach,
of the
reach into
panels
car.
of our dashboard, so nobody has to reach across the driver or
Yeah, that's
run
a good
around the
point.
other side. So
Yeah.
we actually
the
have
middle.
it towards the window on the dashboard
There you
near
go.
the kill
Smart.
switch.
when we
Smart move.
had Tom Sutter on from Grassroots Motorsports. Might be getting close to a year ago, but he's due for a second trip. He mentioned that he actually put a coolant pressure light on.
Yeah.
And that way, when he knew that they had sprung a leak and they had a problem, they would know before even the temperature started to go up.
Yep. That's always a good one too.
Yeah.
Especially if you have something like a Volkswagen Audi, like 1.8 turbo motor or something like that.
It was a Fox, to be precise.
Ask me how I know.
Wow.
What about shift lights?
Yeah, we were talking about with the idiot lights. Is that what you were talking about? Is that
No.
included in not even, that's not
Well, the
dumb
shift light is
indicator?
separate. That is sitting separate.
That's still an idiot light.
Yeah, I mean, I see people put shift lights in the weirdest places, but I mean, I would want to have it right in front of the driver's
they're not
eyes.
small.
Well, right, but I mean, it's still like I see them put over in the middle of the car. That's just going to draw. It's just something to draw your attention away from right in front of you. I think the best place to have a shift light is right in your line of sight, so you don't have a chance to miss it, and it's not taking your vision away from somewhere else. Even though you might look kind of corny having it, just right up there with the same place where the people on the street who don't need it put them.
Yeah, right up in the very center. So that's the only thing you can see. I mean, if you're going to have a shift light, you really need to have it visible so that the driver does not have to turn and look anywhere other than straight ahead to see it light up.
So what's your thoughts on buttons versus switches? Do you have a preference? Do you care?
I'm a big switch guy.
Switches.
And switches 100%. And I'll tell you, I actually use Painless. Painless makes some awesome products. Their switch panels are amazing. The wiring that they give you to be able to wire everything in, it's super, super easy, simple, and it works.
Okay. Good to know. I've heard of them, but I've never heard anybody who knows what they're talking about say that. So that's good to know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
And there'll be a link to them as soon as I find it on this podcast episode notes page.
So I'm probably going to on Saturday need just a tutorial on the wiring because my issue that I have is when it comes is I know that it has to go to a source and I know it has to go to the switch. But when I see two wires that are going to the switch, I'm trying to figure out, say for instance, like I'm putting in my cool suit. I have two wires that are coming for the switch. I'm not sure which one goes to the actual electric source. So, I'm trying to figure out that aspect of it. Like I have the wires, I have everything that I need.
That's a different episode of Dominating with Dawson.
I know.
We're not doing wiring on this.
I'm learning. I know.
So on this episode, we will likely post this on the Instagrams and the Facebooks with pictures of Vicki's beautiful Honda Civic switch board that she's made.
All right, cool.
But we would love to see others. Please send in your pictures. Please send in ideas. If we missed a switch or we missed a light or we missed a panel or we missed a gauge, let us know. GarageHeroesandTrading@gmail.com or on Instagram or Facebook. And we will probably have a part 2 of this. Did we miss it?
Let us steal your ideas.
That's right.
Send us pictures of your control panels. I would love to see them.
That's right. Because Vicki's only on her 3rd one and we haven't even made it to one race yet. But that's okay. It'll be part 4. Nothing. Gotta go. Sleep in the tub. Bye.
No. It's my first control panel.
Okay. Very well. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye. My first one.
Glub, 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 glub.
Right now,
and I don't know if this is not on the list, but I am actively upgrading the interior of our car for more components. And I'm building a control panel. Now, I don't know how we can kind of blend that into a Dawson, but I'm interested in knowing what some of the switches that people have. I mean, you see these really elaborate control panels. And I know there's some people that are starting to build their cars might have new things, and we might want to discuss some of the stuff that you find on your dashboard, like a shift light, how important a shift light might be. Of course, you have your on and off, which is your mandatory switches. But right now, like our fuel switch is activated. When before, did we even have a fuel switch on the other car, on the race truck? Does it have a fuel switch?
Pump? Fuel
switch.
You're using too many terms.
Okay, it's a fuel pump switch.
Fuel pump and fuel gauge.
Stop pitching. Let's do it.
Yes.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? Is that okay?
Yeah.
It's something that I want to understand.
You're going to lead the conversation because you have a lot to say about it. So
Great.
you get us going. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
All right.
That sounds good.
All right.
Hey, so I might have gone into a fugue state or not paying much attention, but did we formally go through and tell everybody who Jeremy was when we were talking just now about the
Of course
switch
not.
panels?
But Jeremy's got an episode coming out, so we're good.
Okay, because I feel like we just barreled right through that. Like
That's all right.
Make sure we don't misrepresenting who he is.
Yeah, by the time this
presence.
episode comes out, they'll know who Jeremy Hall is.
Okay, all right.
Whether they want to or not.
Yeah.
Right. That's the scary part.
Exactly.
Okay, we're on an in between.